Happy Wednesday. I hope that you're having a great day wherever you are, and that you're going to be having a good time with me as I chat with one of my more recent favorite authors, and he quickly jumped onto my favorite author list when I read his most recent book. I'm not generally a romance reader, but I simply could not put down A 40-Year Kiss. I just fell in love with this book, with the story, with the characters, the way he wrote it, and everything about it. I just have been raving about it since last year when I read it. You've probably seen some of my posts if you're following me. And I just received from the author a copy of Little Faith, which is one of his earlier books. And I'm absolutely intrigued by the synopsis, and I can't wait to read it. So we're also going to talk with him about that and his other writing and all sorts of fun things. So I'm going to bring him on with me. Hi. Hey, that
Hey,
worked.
how are you?
I'm so happy when the technology cooperates.
I know, me too. I've never done this before, so thank you very much for inviting me.
Oh, well, it's very easy. I promise you it will not be painful.
All right, good.
So are you in Wisconsin?
Yes, it's a rainy, cool day here. Dark, but we get excited about the rain. We need the rain, so we're not going to complain about that.
Now, do you farm?
I don't farm, or I would never. No, I don't. We have 33 chickens, which
wow.
is more than any family of four really should have. But we have a big garden and a lot of apple trees and berries. But my neighbors are real farmers. I'm just playing around.
So you live out in the country then?
We do, yeah. We live on about 16 acres of land, maybe 10 miles from Eau Claire, which is where my wife and I both grew up.
Oh, okay. So you're a
Yep.
native.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I was born in Pennsylvania, so it's not the same as my wife, who was born in Eau Claire, and her people have been here for 150 years or something like that.
Wow.
But
Yeah. Yeah, that's like me. I call myself a almost native Californian. I was 6 months old when I was brought here.
Okay. Yeah.
I had no decision in the to
Right.
make, but I grew up here and I've always been here. So,
Where do you live in California?
well, I live in Lodi. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It's
I have
35
heard.
miles south of Sacramento.
Okay. Yep.
So we're at the very northern end of the Central Valley.
Yep.
Going to be in the 90s today.
Okay.
This is wine country. There are about 85 wineries in Lodi. So I always
nice.
tell people, oh, we're happy. We're a bunch of winos.
Yeah, that's good. I my kind of people.
Yeah, we're a great alternative to Napa. We're cheaper.
Yeah, I believe it.
Yeah. So first of all, thank you again for sending me Little Faith.
Yeah, of
I'm
course.
so excited to read this because the synopsis just pulled me right in.
Good.
Now, what year did you write this one?
I want to say I think it published in 2019.
Okay, because reading the synopsis, it sounds very current.
Oh, good. Well, yeah, I mean, it was inspired by, I guess you could say, like a true crime case. There was an 11-year-old girl who died of complications of diabetes, maybe like 2 hours away from where we live, because her parents were praying for her rather than taking her to a hospital. She had undiagnosed diabetes. She just died of dehydration. It was totally preventable. And then the case went all the way to the Wisconsin Supreme Court. So it was sort of a horrendous case, when it first hit the news, but then everyone relived it as it kept getting appealed up through the court system. And at the time I wrote it, I was doing a lot of research into faith healing in America. But my goal was not to demonize the parents so much as it was to try to understand their thought process. You're watching your daughter die and you just don't take her to a hospital. You don't call a doctor. I was curious about that. And I felt that in all the research that I'd done, it was just such a dark, painful subject matter that I wanted to kind of leaven that darkness with some brightness. So the central characters in the book are Lyle and Peg Hovde, who are in their, mid to late 60s, and it's really about the relationship between grandparents and grandchildren. And what would you do to protect your grandchildren from your own children? So,
Okay, that sounds fascinating. When
thanks.
I was in private practice, I had a couple of occasions to get guardianships for grandparents
Yeah.
because the children were incapable of taking care of their own children. And that is just a wrenching topic. So I will curl up with this very soon. This
Oh,
sounds
well,
fascinating.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
But you had me with the 40-year kiss.
Oh, thank you so much.
I'm telling you, I couldn't put it down.
Thank you.
And like I said at the beginning, I'm not a big romance reader. You got to give me something else to go with, I'm
Yeah.
not into the two people meet, they fall in love happily ever after. That's not my thing. I know a lot of people like that. It's just not for me. I like something darker and meatier. And when I say meatier, issues.
Yep.
So let's go back for a moment. You grew up basically in Wisconsin. How old were you
Yes.
when you went there?
Like 4?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So were you a big reader as a child?
Huge reader, which I give all the credit in the world to my mom, Um, I think that I always loved reading, but it was my mom who made sure that um, when I reached a certain level of like becoming bored with the Hardy Boys series or something like that,
Yeah.
she didn't always know the next thing that would be appropriate for me to read or that I would want to read, but she was great at talking to our public librarians about that, and then they would give her stacks of books, and so our house was always just filled with books. And short of becoming like a professional athlete or something like that, I've just always wanted to be a writer. Writers were always my heroes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So, how did you go about pursuing that? Now, did you go on to college and like study English or writing, or what did you do?
I went to the University of Wisconsin-Madison. I got an English degree there.
Hmm.
Um, Graduated in 2002, which is kind of a difficult time to find a job in America, like on the heels of 9/11. So I just worked a string of kind of not very glamorous jobs, is a way to put it mildly or politely. Um, and then when my wife and I were 28, she became pregnant with our first child. And I had a conversation with myself about, what kind of dad I wanted to be, or what kind of husband, what kind of man. Uh, and I determined that the only thing that I was really good at was writing. So I started taking private workshops to get better,
Mm-hmm.
joined a writing group. I applied to grad school one year and I didn't get in anywhere. And then the next year I applied at like 15 programs and I got into Iowa. And from then, it just felt like things really started gathering momentum. Yeah, the learning curve was really quick. I was going to school with so many talented, fantastic writers, and I got to see, um, what the landscape of American literature looks like, and started taking things very, very seriously.
Iowa, the first person who comes to mind when you say Iowa for me is Tim Johnston. Did
Hmm.
you ever meet him or encounter him at all?
No, no.
Okay. He was from Iowa, and I saw last week that he had died. I was just
Oh,
ripped apart because he wrote that beautiful trilogy, The Descent and The Current and Distant Suns. And
okay.
they're such beautiful books. And I rarely get to meet authors because they don't
Yeah.
come where I live. But I was so lucky because I think it's about 10 years ago, he actually came to Stockton, which is like, 12 miles from here,
Yeah.
to the University of the Pacific because one of his friends was a professor. And I actually got to meet him and chat with him.
Oh,
He
cool.
was so talented. And I was so sorry to hear that he had died.
Yeah.
So for anybody watching this, if you have not read Tim Johnston's books, I highly, highly recommend them. They're so good. But he didn't publish it quickly.
Yeah.
It took him time to write a book. So, how long does it usually take you from start to finish to write a book?
Yeah, that particular book came pretty quickly. It was inspired by kind of a not kind of it was inspired by a moment that really happened to me of listening to two people talking, and as soon as their conversation was done, I think I just felt incredibly um, motivated and inspired to write that book. So I think that book maybe took to get a good rough draft in place, maybe 9 months, something like that.
Okay.
Now, I mean, I just finished a draft that I'm going to talk to my agent about on Friday. And that book took me like 14 years of thinking and then maybe 3 years of writing to get done. So it just, you never know. I don't have another job. I don't teach at a university or anything like that. So if I don't write a book every 2 to 3 years, I just don't really have any income,
Yeah.
you know?
And publishing is hard. Tell us about your journey to publication, because now you have,
Yeah.
is it The Hearts of Men? Was that your first book?
That's my third book.
Third
Yep.
book. Okay.
Yep.
So when did you first have a published novel?
I graduated the Iowa Writers Workshop in 2012, and the fall. If I graduated in May of 2012, by September of 2012, I'd sold my first book and my second book to St. Martin's. Shotgun Love
Wow.
Songs is my first book, and that got published in March of 2014.
Okay.
Yeah, and then my
So,
next book, Beneath the Bonfire, which is a collection of short stories, was published in 2015, I think.
okay.
Yep.
So you got a pretty good start there right out of the Iowa place, the workshop.
I did. Part of it was I went to school with people that were in their early 20s, like coming right out of undergraduate into the program.
Mhm.
Really, really talented people. Some of them are still my friends. But I was 30 when I started. I had a kid. And I really looked at those 2 years as being like, if I didn't come out of that with a book to sell, I would have felt, this is just my personal belief, but I would have felt like a little bit of a failure because my wife and our son and I were all living actually north of the Twin Cities in Minnesota. And every Monday I would commute down to Iowa City, and every Thursday or Friday I'd go back. So 4 nights a week, my wife was a single mom, and I wasn't seeing my 1-year-old kid. And we were really sacrificing a lot during that 2 years. So I really, really took my every moment seriously, and I really, really worked hard.
Well, I relate to that. When I went to law school, I went to the evening program.
Yeah, sure.
McGeorge School of Law in Sacramento, which is part of the University of Pacific, has an evening program.
Yeah.
And so they have a day program, it's just 3 years. The evening program is 4 years, and it's designed for people with families and jobs.
Yeah.
And boy, what a difference. Because I took some classes during the day, and these kids that, their parents were paying for everything, they were living on campus. I mean, they would gripe about, oh, I don't have time for this. And I'd laugh because there was literally the library door and the apartment building on campus. It was like, I don't know, I'm less than a football field.
Yeah.
And that's as far as you have to go. And all you have to worry about is feeding yourself and doing your own laundry. What?
Yeah.
Because when I started, I had one kid and I had two when I finished. And I don't recommend that plan. But,
Yeah.
and I was commuting from North Stockton to Sacramento. My husband was home, with one kid. Part of the time I was pregnant up and down the freeway. And when I graduated, I had huge pressure. You have to pass the bar.
Yeah.
Failure
Yeah.
is not an option.
Right.
Student loans, hello. Plus,
Yeah.
if I hadn't passed the bar, I was clerking at a law firm that you get one shot. You don't pass, they fire you. You're done. Go find a job somewhere else. And nobody wants that, right? So I understand very intimately that what you're talking about when you have other real life responsibilities.
Yeah.
There's a pressure to get something done.
Yeah. And with writing, I've known writers that have spent years polishing the same short story, and the story does get better and better. I mean, like if you allow yourself 25 years to work on a novel or 20 years to work on a short story, it better be good.
Yeah.
But the question is really like in my career, the question has always been, I hope that I'm getting better as a writer, but each book that I write is what I was capable of writing at that time. It was what was intellectually stimulating or emotionally stimulating to me at that time. I probably have, 3 to 4 years to work on it. And at some point I have to be done and I have to keep moving on to the next thing. And I'm also the kind of writer who has like I won't have enough time on this planet to execute all the ideas that I have, you know. Um, so I kind of want to move on to the next thing too.
Mhm.
It doesn't mean that I don't spend a long time thinking about these things. Like the draft that I just finished, I think I spent 14 years thinking about, you know. But at some point, I just have to let go of the projects too.
True. Okay, so tell me about the conversation
Yeah.
that inspired this book. I'm dying to hear that story.
Yeah, so there is one of my favorite bars is a place called the Tomahawk Room. It's in Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin, which is, maybe a city of 12,000 north of Eau Claire where I live. And one night I was there just killing time. I wasn't there to drink too much. I think I was waiting for my kids to be done with some project, and so I was just nursing a beer, working a Sudoku puzzle, and there were two folks that I think were in their probably mid 60s that were seated near me at the bar. And I heard the man say to the woman, I still dream about you. I dream about the mornings we had in bed together. I dream about kissing you. May I kiss you? And I just, this is a bar that I love, but I can tell you that that sort of like romantic dialogue doesn't just happen all the time.
No.
And I started blushing, and I felt like both something magical was going to happen, but I didn't know what to expect of their kiss. I guess I thought the kiss was going to be like a polite peck on the cheek or something. It wasn't. It was super passionate. It lasted for a long time. I continued to just keep blushing. I'm kind of pretending to like not, be
Right.
observing them, but of course I am spying on them. And
How can
and
you
then I
not, right?
right. And then I got my phone out and I started taking notes on their conversation. And I think what had happened was that they had either been high school sweethearts, college sweethearts, or they'd been married in their late teens, early 20s, and they hadn't seen each other in 40 years. And this man was just putting all his cards on the table and really wanted to reconnect with this woman. And it was really romantic. Um, and I think my publisher at that time probably expected me to. My fifth book is kind of a literary thriller. And I think they had expected me to write another literary thriller, which was well within their right to imagine that. But after these folks left the bar, I just thought, well, shoot, I guess we're writing like a love story. And I think sometimes the universe gives you an idea as a writer,
Mhm.
and you're kind of obliged to follow that idea. You could choose not to because you're beholden to certain market expectations. But then you just get into the habit of writing books that are like they're like a product, they're like a widget. They're not something you feel passionate about. So yeah, that's where that came from.
So did you actually like kind of craft your characters after this couple?
Well, I knew nothing about the couple, and I still
Right.
don't know anything about the couple.
But I mean, like their
But
mannerisms or the way they looked, or did you
yes,
use that as like a
yes.
springboard?
Well, for example, like one thing that I remember from that conversation was that the man was telling the woman that he just gotten done with clothes shopping in Minneapolis. And as somebody who'd gone to the Tomahawk Room for years and years, nobody's ever talked about clothes shopping, as far as I know, inside that bar.
Yeah.
So it kind of struck me that maybe the guy had some money.
Uh-huh.
And but the woman seemed more of Chippewa Falls. And so I just felt like, okay, well, that's interesting to me. They've been apart for 40 years. He seems like maybe he's traveled more, that he's got money. She feels like she's been here the whole time. So what would keep her in place? You know, what would why would he have been able to build up wealth and she really hadn't? And then just starting to ask all sorts of questions about who the people were. And um, I think it's telling that they met in a bar. A lot of the book is, about alcoholism.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah, I was
so
going to
yeah,
get to that because
yeah,
you created a character who has a problem with alcohol.
yes, yeah.
So give us the elevator pitch for people
Oh,
who are not familiar with the story. Tell us a
yeah,
little bit who these people are and what this is all, because
yeah.
I just loved it.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, I am god awful at the elevator pitch. I live in rural Wisconsin. There are few elevators and few
Yeah.
people to pitch things to, but I tell the people that it's about two 60-something-year-old folks that are sort of star-crossed lovers. They were married in their early 20s, and then for complicated reasons they broke up, and now it's 40 years later, and they're trying to understand whether there's room in their life still for romance and for second chance love. And so I think for me it's about small town Wisconsin. It's about love, redemption. This is a book that's got darkness in it, but it tends to be a book that is more interested in happiness and light too.
Right. So how did you go about well, first of all, let me ask this because I always have to ask. Are you a plotter or are you a pantser? Do you know the beginning and the ending, and do you
Yeah.
outline and do that whole thing, or do you just sit down and go, all right, gods of inspiration, come visit me?
Yeah. Um, I tend to always know the opening scene and the ending. I don't really know what's happening between those 2 points. I might have some notes for scenes, sort of set scenes that I want to see happen in the book, but I don't plot everything out down to the last thing. To me, one of the really fun things about my job is to have that discovery, to be surprised. Um, there's so much talk about AI right now,
Uh,
and I think one of the most pleasurable things about my job is that the really magical points in some of my books are the moments that I haven't experienced them. I don't know where it's coming from. And it really gives me hope for like man-made art, that artists are sort of tapped into, I don't want to sound like too woo-woo, but that artists are kind of tapped into a kind of a different energy, and it's kind of unexplainable sometimes. Um, so, the book that I just finished, I took more notes on uh, as I was writing it, but that's because it's got four rotating perspectives and it can just be a lot to hold in your head all at once. So I think writing some of the plot down and taking extra notes about a character can be kind of more important when you're structuring the book that way. With a 40-year kiss, there's two central characters, so I could hold it all in my head.
okay.
Yeah.
So how did you decide? Because you're not in your 60s, that's obvious.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
But you've been married a long time.
Yep.
So you had some experience with a long-term relationship,
Yep.
and we all know none is perfect. But how did you decide on what their conflicts were going to be? Did you have a specific idea when you got the inspiration, or did that come to you later? Because I don't want to spoil anything, but there is alcoholism involved.
Hmm. Well, I think I started writing this book, I think in 2022, so that was sort of after COVID. Um, I tell people that COVID um, it was hard for me for a lot of different reasons. My job is pretty lonely day to day, but one of the wonderful things about my job is that I do get to travel to bookstores and to libraries and to meet booksellers, librarians, book lovers, and that's sort of my social outlet.
Right.
I remember like when the, stay in place orders started to happen, I just sat down with my paper calendar because that's how I don't that I use a paper calendar to chart everything. And I just had to get like a bottle of whiteout and cross off all these events, which also represented money to my family.
Um,
And at the same time, my kids are home from school and I was their main instructor because my wife was still working. And when I got done teaching them at 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I would start drinking. And at first it was
oh,
like a glass of wine and then maybe like 2 glasses of wine. And it just kept getting to be more and more. And at some point I do remember feeling like I'm losing control of this. And my
ooh,
dad had been a bad alcoholic, so I know what alcoholism looks like. I know that it's something that I have to be careful of in my own life. Um, also, I did a talk with my friend Nick Gulig, who's a former poet laureate of the state of Wisconsin, and Nick's a very serious language poet, and we were going to be in conversation, and I wondered how he would receive this book. Um, but he read it really well and he really generously, and he said, "Do you think you created the character Charlie as a way of like giving your dad a second chance? Because your dad never quit alcohol and he never patched things up with my mom and he rarely made the right decisions." And it was kind of something I'd never considered before, but it seems possible that in the back of my mind I knew exactly who Charlie was. I knew exactly what his alcoholism looked like, and I had always hoped that my dad would kind of turn things around and start making the right decisions, and he never really did.
that's interesting. See, the universe knew what it was doing when sent that couple into the bar.
Um, yeah, maybe,
Yeah,
maybe. You
I
know,
believe in that kind of stuff. I don't think there's any such thing as a coincidence. I don't believe in a
yeah,
coincidence.
yeah. The funny thing about that couple is that I know the day that I was in the bar. I know what time I was there. I know who was tending bar. I now am good friends with the owner of the bar and most of the bartenders, and most of those folks have read the book. The book, of course, got good media attention around this area throughout the Midwest. It got some national coverage too. All just to say, we've all been trying to figure out who those people are, and we can't. And I think initially my perception was that this was a romantic reunion. But I think in hindsight, I wonder if they were maybe conducting an affair. And unbeknownst to them, there's just a goofy novelist down the bar, who's taking notes. And not that affairs can't be romantic, but I think I had a notion of what they were doing, and I think it might be a little different than what I imagined.
Who knows? Unless you see them again and are able to go, hey, you guys, I wrote a book about you. Did you know that?
Right.
You
And
you probably will never know.
I couldn't even pick them out of a police lineup anymore. I don't even remember. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So then, if Charlie is based on your dad, is your mom
Well,
in the
and
book? Well, not
no, I
based,
mean,
but
and I should say
inspired.
that yeah, um, my mom, well, first off, I don't like the idea of thinking about those characters as being too close to my parents because I had to write sex scenes, and really think about think about who they were romantically. So I'd prefer to like put some psychic distance between those characters and my parents.
Yeah.
But I mean, my mom dated some men after she and my dad were divorced, and um, I do remember that I don't think it gets easier necessarily to make room in your life for somebody after you've lived a certain way for so long. Um, and I think at times she had really good relationships, but it was just really difficult to kind of push on to that next level, you know?
Hmm.
Um, and there are some roadblocks that I threw between Charlie and Vivian. They don't live in the same place. So they're
Right.
constantly kind of driving back and forth. And Charlie's kind of fixated on money, and Vivian really isn't. She's never had any. And I think the money is nice, but I think she's always been focused on her family, and that to her that's fulfilling.
Right.
And Charlie's life is bereft of that sort of family love.
Mhm. And for me, what really cemented this story was the struggle of, are they or aren't they going to get back together, and how are they going to work that out? Is, like, I love second chance stories, but the word chance has meaning in there. It's a chance. It's not
Yeah.
a predetermined outcome. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
And I love the way Vivian didn't just like, oh my God, he's back. My problems will be solved. I'll have money. I'll have a man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No. And I don't think it's a spoiler to say that there was a lot of consideration and experimentation. And, and then of course, you told the backstory, which is absolutely necessary for us to understand the current day situation. So it's clear that there's love, but the real heart of this story is that, can it possibly work?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I think the way the book, one thing that I realize as I talk about the book, to readers is that it was my hope that it's a propulsive read. The narration is divided between him and her, which as a writer is fun because you can sort of withhold information from the reader,
Right.
and from the characters themselves. And I think it works a little bit the same way a mystery does, where, you're reading to kind of understand more and more about these characters. There's enough darkness there that nothing is really assured. Like no happy ending is assured, and that was
Right.
important to me. Yeah. So it was fun. It was fun to write. I mean, it was a page turner for me to write. I loved being with those characters.
Well, and Charlie has gotten a lot of his life together, but nobody's perfect.
Right.
And
Yeah.
he's still Charlie, which I love Charlie.
Me
I
too.
think I know guys like Charlie. In some ways they just don't grow up. Like, what's that Peter Pan thing,
Uh-huh.
But you can't help but love him
Yeah.
because he's got a good heart.
Yeah. And
I
he's
think.
trying too, I mean, I think I've had a couple readers who say, do you think people actually change? I think they're asking this because what they want to ask is, do alcoholics change? And I think it's probably coming from a personal place where the alcoholics in their own life have chosen not to seek help.
Right.
And what I tell people is, well, of course people change, and of course there are alcoholics who recognize that they have a problem and need help. I mean, we know this, that people do get sober. So the other thing that I tell people is, one of my old professors at Iowa, Jim Galvin, would say that real life, I'm going to butcher it a little bit, but he would say real life doesn't have an ending, but stories do. And where I ended this book was important to me because I don't think I'm going to ruin anything by saying this, but it's a happy ending, But that doesn't mean that for this couple it's always going to be a happy ending, or that Charlie isn't going to fall off the wagon 3 days after the narrative ends. I don't know that. But
Right.
for me, sometimes when I'm making choices about where to end a book, I will choose to end it at like the last best moment. Things are just going to potentially go into decline after this moment, so we'll celebrate this spot right here.
Exactly. Yeah. And that is life.
Yeah,
I'm blanking, so forgive me.
that's okay.
How old is Vivian in this book? I can't remember exactly. Did you give her an
Well,
exact number or just 60s?
I think she's like, I want to say she's 64. It's been a while since I've had to do the math or look at
Okay.
it carefully, but I want to say she's 64 or 65, something like that.
Yeah, I was thinking mid 60s, but I didn't know if my memory was accurate, and I didn't go back and look. I just find it fascinating. Did you do any research? Like, did you talk with any people in their 60s about, you know, how would you approach something like this? Or, you know, would you, because you nailed it so beautifully. Because, hello, I'm in my 60s. I'm going to be 70 in December. Newsflash. And I just have to make myself say that is like, you know, because I think I'm 18, but I'm definitely not. But I mean, I related so much to her struggle, because you hit the nail on the head a moment ago when you said, when you reach a certain point in life, you're not ready to make a bunch of changes. And I can tell you straight up, me and a lot of my friends, you know, like a new person coming, or even an old person coming back into your life at this stage of the game,
Yeah.
a lot of us wouldn't even be interested. You know,
Yeah.
like that's too much effort right now.
Yeah.
My life is settled. I got, you know, my house, my kids are grown. I got grandnieces. I don't have grandchildren, but I have grandnieces. I got my routine. I'm retired. You know, like, don't come and upset my little apple cart here, kids, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And but you nailed that, and you nailed not only her consideration and that emotional struggle, because I think she always loved Charlie. That was my sense of the book. She never stopped loving him. It was, you know, it was the problems in the relationship, right? And is she willing to make enough changes to accommodate this? So I'm just wondering how you did that so beautifully. If you researched it, or if that was just your natural, you know, your writing that you came up with all that, because that's a hard thing to portray, I think.
Well, thank you. Yeah. I mean, look, before I wrote one sentence of this book, I spent certainly weeks, but maybe months, really thinking about who those people at the bar were. Really thinking hard about you know, I hadn't taken copious notes, but I'd taken notes on what had been said. I thought really hard about the way that they looked, what they were wearing. I thought hard about Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin, the kind of people that live there. Um, and I think one of the wonderful things about my job is that I've spent a lifetime just thinking about the way that people feel.
Mhm.
And really, um, another way of explaining that is a couple years back, I decided to run for public office. I ran for state assembly. I didn't win. I didn't even get out of my Democratic primary, but it was a fascinating experience for me because I knocked on thousands of doors, um, talked to strangers all the time. And sometimes I would be standing in someone's driveway talking to them or at their front door, and they would tell me a story about their life. And what I realized is when someone starts to tell you a story that's important to them, you can just listen to the story and let it wash over you like a wave and then continue on with your life. Or you can think about why somebody is trying to tell you a story and what that story um, elucidates about who they are and what their values are.
Mhm.
And in that subsequent time, I pay really close attention to any sort of story that I hear, or a joke when somebody tells a joke. And I don't know. I think it's improved the way that I think about characters. You know, and then if you think about all the different people that you might not be interacting with them, but say you're watching a reality TV show and you're only sort of superficially meeting somebody on the screen, but you can start gathering clues or details about who they are to sort of better understand their psyche behind what's happening on the TV screen, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah, that's true.
We just don't really spend the time, most of us don't really spend the time thinking about it, you know. Life is too hard, we're too busy, we're too tired, whatever it is. Just happens that this is my day-to-day job, so I spend a lot of time, you know, thinking about it.
Well, it paid off. All
Thanks.
those thoughts paid off. I'm telling you, this is. I bought the hard copy because I'm going to give it to my friends and have them pass it around and read it, because I just know they're going to love it as much as I do.
Okay.
Um, so tell me about the book that you just finished. Is there anything
Yeah.
that you can tip us off about? Because I'm anxious to get my hands on it.
Well, sure. I mean, we're right in the, oh my gosh, we're just in the beginning phases. Like, I finished a draft, I turned it into my agent. I'll have a conversation with my agent on Friday.
Uh-huh.
Probably, hopefully, he likes it, but he gives me some editing feedback, and then I'll, spend weeks or maybe low months trying to get it into ship shape, and then we'll take it to my current editor. Hopefully, she decides to buy it. But it's a follow up to my first book, Shotgun Love Songs, which is
Oh, okay.
a book that a lot of readers have found through the years. It came out in 2014. It's still finding readers. We just sold the foreign rights in Catalan to it, even though it's been out for 12 years or whatever.
Well, tell us about that
Um,
one because I haven't read it. So what is that
yeah,
about?
it's about a group of friends in rural Wisconsin, in a fictitious small town in rural Wisconsin. In Shotgun Love Songs, you meet those characters in their early 30s, so it's a lot about some couples have an easy time getting pregnant and some couples struggle. Some couples
Oh,
at that time in their life are making money, others
uh-huh.
are struggling to do so. So it's just, some of those events that are happening at that time. The book that I just finished would be a follow-up to it, same cast of characters, but 10, 15 years later. Hopefully they're a little wiser, they're certainly older. Um, so it's talking about farming in rural Wisconsin, marriage, that moment when your kids start leaving the nest, and how that's quite a different feeling than being a young parent at 30 with toddlers, maybe.
Oh, yeah.
Um, yeah, so I'm very very excited for hopefully it'll get published. I just never know. Publishing's a brutal business, so
Yeah.
yeah.
I've seen posts in the past week from two authors whose books have been, I thought, really well received. I know one of them was nominated for awards for her book, and two authors have posted they've just been dropped by their publisher. And I was like, wow, because if people that are that with names that are that recognizable are getting dropped, and they say it's all about data and sales and yada yada, which is one of the reasons I want to do these chats with authors because I want to sell your books for you. Like
Well,
I keep
yeah,
holding it up. I want people to go buy some books because I keep hearing from authors it's tough out there.
it's really tough. It's really really tough. It's this as a big reader, but there's so many great books that come out every week, and there's only so much money, there's only so much time. um the news cycle plays a big role. Like, if you have a steady kind of quiet news cycle, then maybe your book can get picked up by, you know Terry Gross decides to do an interview with you, or NPR, or things like that.
Yeah.
But if it's a politically tumultuous time, then your book might just disappear. There's less outlets covering books now. The Washington Post, I think, just dissolved their book review section. So
Wait. Bezos owns the Washington Post, right?
yeah,
And Amazon.
yeah.
Where's the logic there? Did I miss something?
Well, I don't know. I think um,
Bezos, I don't know how you say his name, but you know what I mean.
yeah. Well, one way to look at it is we could just be moving towards AI generated books. You don't need an agent to discuss things with. You don't need to talk to lawyers. You don't need to talk to writers. And companies like Amazon are well positioned to sell stuff like that. So that
Yes,
would
I
be
guess
one way
maybe
to
he
look at
doesn't
it.
need the Washington Post because he's selling enough stuff.
Yeah, and it doesn't really. An AI generated book. You don't need a review for that. You don't need somebody on a book tour. Um, I
Yikes.
don't know. I think another way of thinking about the book industry right now, it's less about the book industry and more about the fact that a lot of Americans are really hurting.
Yes. I
You
was going
know,
to ask you about that. Since you're in rural Wisconsin and you're surrounded by farmers, I keep hearing on the news that the farmers are really suffering with everything that's been going on. Are you seeing that in your community?
when we moved to the land where where we live in 2013, there were, trying to think here. I'm just trying to, historically, the road that we lived on, I think, had 8 dairy farms. And now it has 1 farm that produces beef. Now, some of that decline was happening in slow motion since the 80s.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think it gets sped up because of market conditions like what we're experiencing now.
Is it also
But
because sometimes the parents were farmers and the kids want no part of it, so it
yeah,
just
it's
ends?
really, it's hard work, right? It's brutal, unromantic, hard work. Like nobody in our society is applauding you for being a dairy farmer. Um, so I think there's a lot of conditions, but I don't think it's not getting easier to be a farmer here at all.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I know here in town, the wine industry has been in a slump. And there are some folks around here who have just pulled out like 100-year-old Zinfandel grape. They've just pulled up the vines and given up and sold the
yeah,
land, and that's the end of it. And it's tragic because, some of those old grapevines
right,
are valuable and produce beautiful
right.
grapes and wine. So Lodi's
Yeah.
known for Zinfandels, and I've heard stories of people just can't make it because the wine's not selling. So
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, whether you own a vineyard or you own a dairy farm, things get tough, and your primary asset becomes the real estate. You know.
right, and you don't have money to be buying books, which is
Yeah.
why libraries are so important, and we have to protect them.
Right, and it's a tough time for libraries. You know, we've sort of yeah, it feels like it's a kind of age of false austerity, and you know, without being overly political, some people are afraid of books, afraid of ideas, and
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Yes. I think we have people in charge of things that have probably never read very many books. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Yeah.
Well, I'll be anxious to hear about how things go with that new book. Theoretically, when might we get our hands on it? Next year, do you think?
Let's see here. I think next year would be a little bit quick, but maybe, I don't know, maybe late summer 2017. Otherwise, I would say early 2018. You know, if everything goes well, knock on wood. Um, yeah, it just depends how long the editing process is and
Yeah,
what publisher would pick me up, but I'm hopeful. I'm really proud of the book. I think it's great. I think it's got something to say about America and where we are right now. And in fact, the conversation you were sharing about the vineyards is not dissimilar to something the characters are going through in my book. So
definitely going to go back and get the first one and read that. Now, tell us
yeah,
about your other book, The Hearts of Men.
yeah.
Didn't it win a bunch of awards?
It was really critically well acclaimed. It won. It was shortlisted for some of France's highest literary awards. I don't know that it won them. I can't remember. And it was nominated for some big awards here in the States. Um, yeah, that's a book I'm very proud of. It takes place over 3 generations in northern Wisconsin. It tends to be set at a Boy Scout camp in northern Wisconsin. And it's a lot about fathers and sons and mothers and sons, what
Okay.
it means to be a good man, what it means to have a kind of moral code of conduct. Um,
Oh,
yeah.
that's a timely book too, then.
Yeah. Well, I wrote it during the 2015-2016 presidential primary when I was watching the primary with my young son, and I just remember seeing a certain kind of behavior
Yes.
playing out in those primaries and thinking, this is not like anything I've witnessed in my life. It felt like a loss of decorum. Um,
Oh, yeah.
and so it was in reaction to some of that behavior that I was seeing.
All right. Well, there's another one I have to read now. So I've added how many to 3 to my stack, I think. for.
Thank
Um,
you very much.
no, definitely. I will get to them because they all sound really interesting and like things that I enjoy reading. Um, we definitely know that the decorum issue hasn't gotten any better. So that
No.
sounds like it sounds like a very contemporary book, which again is the kind of thing that I love reading. So I will
Okay.
definitely be looking into that. So do you still read a lot?
I certainly try to. I mean, my life is happier when I'm reading books, and I feel like I look at my phone more than I care to admit, and crawling into bed at night with a good book feels like, brushing my teeth or scrubbing my brain in a good way.
Yeah.
So right now I'm reading um, Nathan Hill's The Knicks, which came out a while ago,
I'm not
and
familiar with that one.
it's good. It's very good. And I'm reading Dennis Johnson's The Laughing Monsters. I'm a big fan of Dennis Johnson.
Okay.
Um, and I just finished reading Lonesome Dove, which I really, really loved and
I'm reading
admired.
Lonesome Dove right now.
You're reading it right now?
Yes. Oh, well,
Yeah.
yeah, we can. I'm not done. So,
Okay.
yes, there's a woman on Instagram. Her name is Alana Grace. And
Uh-huh.
I don't know if you should follow her if you aren't following
Yeah.
her. And she has written a couple of her own books, but she has this book club for people over 40.
Okay.
And she's got us reading Lonesome Dove.
Oh, it's
Which is
great.
like, it's,
Yeah.
but I had never read it and I'd never
I
seen the
know.
miniseries.
I'm in
So,
the same boat you are. I'm in my living room right now looking at bookshelves, and when I was in my early 20s, I worked in a bed and breakfast above a bookstore, and one of the perks was that you got a discount on your books. So I bought like a beautiful copy of Lonesome Dove, hardcover, Simon and Schuster, like a reissue. But I would be laying in bed with it, and it weighed, it probably weighs 5 or 6 pounds. Like my
oh yeah,
wrist would get tired. So then
yeah,
I just put it away, and I never thought about it. But I think, like a lot of people, I read The Correspondent,
yes,
months ago, and
yes.
she mentions Lonesome Dove in The Correspondent, and I thought, you know, it's probably about time that I give this book a shot. And I'm so glad that I did. I'm glad she mentioned it. I'm glad it's experiencing a resurgence. I mean, it is, in my opinion, it's a gorgeous, gorgeous book.
Oh, and I just love the correspondence so much.
A great book. Great
My book
book.
club just loved it. But this is how I read because this is my Kindle because
Okay.
there's
Yeah.
no way I can hold on. Now, do you prefer physical books or
I
do you
only read
Kindle?
I only read physical books.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can't. I could not hold a 900-page book. Plus, I like to be able to change the font size because,
Yep. Yep.
the
No,
eyeball.
hey, I mean, I think my philosophy is, as long as people are reading books, I don't care how they're reading books. I do think, for me personally, independent bookstores are incredibly important. So I think there is something for something to be said for a person like me to support physical books, because they've been great allies of mine. Without them, I'm not sure that I'd still be able to keep going. So
That's excellent. All right. Well, it's been lovely talking with you. I'm so glad that we did this.
me too.
Um,
Thank you so
I,
much for your
I'm
support.
so happy to hear about your new book coming out. I really hope that that goes well. And maybe
Thank
we
you.
can chat again when that one is out in the world getting ready to be published.
Well, that sounds great. I really appreciate your time. I appreciate how kind you've been to my book. Anything that I can do uh, to thank you, I'd be happy to.
Uh, just keep writing. That's
Mm.
thanks enough. I'm in a great position because I'm retired and I can spend my time the way I want to spend it. And the way I want to spend it is reading. And it occurred to me a few months ago because I often don't see a lot of the books that I really loved on Instagram, which is really
Mm.
kind of where it's happening for. And I thought, well, let's just go talk to some authors and get some more readers for them if we possibly can, because hey, my services as a publicist are free and I'm doing the best I can here to sell some
Oh,
books.
appreciate it.
All right. Well, listen, have a great day since it's
Thank
rainy
you.
and icky. Are you going to curl up with a book this afternoon?
I'm catching up on my letter writing, actually.
Do you actually
So
write letters
I do, yeah.
and you
Handwritten
mail them?
letters, yeah. and I mail them. Yeah.
That's so funny because when my book club read The Correspondent, my best friend and my kid's godmother said, I'm inspired. I'm going to go write some letters. I said, I haven't written a letter since I retired from practicing law.
I wrote a letter last night to a friend of mine by hand, and then this morning I spent it writing a letter to one of my best friends, a guy I've known since I was 12. He actually lives a mile and a half away from me, but we still exchange letters through the mail.
Oh, how fun.
And then this afternoon, I'm going to spend it writing a letter to a friend of mine that I've known for about 20 years who lives in Finland. And we just don't really communicate. The only way that we communicate is through letters.
Wow. That's great. It's all text messaging and emails and stuff now, I sit down to write a check and my hand goes, what are you doing?
I can relate.
Yeah. Okay, one final question. I'm going to let you go.
Okay.
Are you a football fan?
Of course.
Green Bay?
Of course.
All right.
It's not even. All right, wait. Are you a football fan?
Hello, Niners. I saw your gold sweatshirt. And I thought, I bet you it's a Packers sweatshirt.
Yeah, your 49ers have been a good adversary for us through the years. I think I still have nightmares of Colin Kaepernick slicing up our secondary. Like, he was so fast, and when he first came on the scene, yeah.
How about, was it 2020 when they were playing in Green Bay in that terrible snowstorm and Robbie Gould kicked it in? Remember that? And yeah, you do. See your face.
I don't think that's a happy memory for us, though.
It was for me. Anyway, I love you anyway, even if you are a Packers fan.
Oh, well, thank you so much.
I don't like your
really enjoyed our talk.
Quarterback at all, but.
Which one? Rodgers or Favre? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a fan.
He's a California guy.
I know, but nobody in California likes him.
Oh.
He's from Chico, and he spent too many years with I wanted to be a Niner, so we all make fun of him because, he's such a big, he's a whiner, would have been a Niner, never kind of guy is what we call him.
Well, I think I went through a little phase where I was, he said some things that politically I don't agree with.
Right.
But on the other hand, I think he's a different kind of professional athlete. Like, it does feel like he's on some sort of quest.
Yeah.
And that's kind of interesting to me, whether
he's going to play this year. Where is he? I forget. Is he with the Steelers again? No.
Yeah, he's still with the Steelers. Yeah.
Yeah. He said one more year.
One more year.
Like 45 or something?
I think that's about right. But 45, hey, I mean.
I know. But my husband was watching him, I think it was a couple years ago, and he said, this guy can't run anymore. He's throwing, but he can't run.
Yeah. No, there's no.
How much did you run when you were 45?
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, not at all.
No, that's true. But yeah, I think there's not a lot of tread on his tires anymore.
No, but he's like, I'm with you. It's some of the things that he said that just turned me off to him. So, yeah. But it doesn't matter because he'll never be a Niner, and that's all I care about.
No, well, that's true.
And of course, we have Brock.
You have Brock Purdy, who's a good quarterback. Yeah.
Yes, and such a cute kid. So I mean, how can you not love Brock Purdy, right? He's like the all-American boy.
Yeah, if he beats the Packers, I will not be. Yeah, I won't be his fan. So.
Right, but I mean, when you see him, like off the field, and he's got a cute little wife and he's just so adorable. Yeah. I go, I would adopt you. I just think you're, such a great kid. So, but anyway, and I guess our former quarterback, Jimmy, I guess he's done. Jimmy Garoppolo. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, all right. Well, good luck in your football watching this season.
Thank
May
you.
It be
good luck
productive
to you.
And happy for you, except when you play the Niners.
Fair enough. Well, I feel the same. Right back at you. Good luck to your Niners, unless they're against our Packers. So.
All right. Sounds good.
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much, and hopefully we can do this again.
Sounds good. Have a great day. Thank you.
You too. Bye bye.
Bye bye.